Good evening and welcome. We have with us the two speakers for the evening, Sapan Shrimal and Amit Sharma. Amit would be speaking on spirituality. He is a life coach. He has mentored a lot of people, and it's not just one segment. Actually, Amit has been all over the place. People know him, they love him. And for Sapan is an expert in NLP. Actually, he is a mindfulness coach from national team. People have been consulting him on the India level, plus a lot of people internationally. He has coached a lot of teams around in Abu Dhabi, in Oman, India. He's an expert. People know him for mindfulness. His brand Monk at Work signifies what he is. He's a monk and he lives by that example. So, over to you, Amit. We'll hear it out from you first. Welcome, Amit. You can come on screen. I'm
Thank
not.
you. Thank you so much, Fasi. Thank you so much. So, friends, we have been experiencing a pandemic, and two waves of the pandemic have really dented our bodies, our minds, our spirits somewhere. But the whole idea is I live my life by a belief. What happens to us is not that important. How we to choose to respond to that makes all the difference. Well, one observation that I have had during this pandemic, and I'm sure most of you all would agree with it, is the fear of pandemic has been greater than the pandemic itself. Yes, friends, it is ironical the way we have responded by panicking around to this pandemic it has not been a very healthy thing. But the question arises why we react out of fear or panic. Well, we can only respond out of something which is already inside us. Now, for that, we need to understand, if I am making a tall claim here right at the beginning of this talk that we are full of fear, then friends, we'll have to acknowledge this, accept this, and understand this. What is fear, from where it comes, and to whom it occurs. Now, why I am saying to whom it occurs, you all would say, obviously, it occurs to us. Now, we all have different understandings of who do we think we are. Actually, I'll give you an example. If I tell any of you that your body doesn't seem well, you might just say that, okay, you have had some kind of cold, cough, or anything. But if I say that your mind doesn't seem well, well, you might get offended. Why? Because our identification with our total beings is actually mostly with the minds. But friends, there is a body to our beings, and there is something which resides in this body, which is soul. Now, unfortunately, our identification has been with something that is impermanent, that is the body and the mind. And intrinsically, we are something permanent, that is the soul. But now the question arises, if we are the minds and fear hits the mind, from where does it come? Well, there are three major contributing factors to our development. And this development mostly happens till the age of 14. The first major influence that impacts our formation is parenting. Yes, friends, I know the intention of our parents has been quite pure. It has been for our well-being. But what our parents has taught us, is that right? Or whatever is right is right. Now, how would we ever come to know about it? Because with a very pure intentions, the parents have simply conveyed to us what their parents conveyed to them. So the idea is that's how patterns keep on getting passed in families until unless in one of the generation, one person wakes up and starts questioning those patterns. So when I talk about parenting, one of the first memories, at least I have about my childhood, is beta, ro mat. Don't cry. Please don't cry. We are never encouraged to cry. Now imagine if crying would have been such an ugly emotion, Why would God would have sent us from a mother's womb out to the world with this emotion? We come out crying.
Amit Sharma, I have a
But the
question to you.
idea of life is, can you mute Siddharth? Siddharth. The idea is that suppose we accept life in partiality, then we would never be harmonious in life, because life is to be accepted in totality. Now, life exists in polarities. There is a day, there is a night, there are tears, there are smiles, there are two legs, there is grief, there is sorrow, and there is joy. But unfortunately, right from the beginning, we have been asked to accept one thing and reject another. Now, unless we accept life in totality, harmony cannot happen. And when the suppression occurred in all of us by tears not being encouraged in us, by crying not being propagated, then definitely we cannot smile with our hearts. Our smiles are superficial. So a lot of suppression happened. And another thing, when we were growing up, if you guys recall, whenever there was a topic of death that was discussed, it was all under hush-hush tones. What do we recall of death? We recall crying faces, howling people, melancholic, long kind of faces. Why? Because we were never told that death happens to the body. Death doesn't happen to the soul that resides in us. And that is how our identification got shifted to our bodies and minds. And the problem with mind is, friends, that mind cannot explore any uncharted territory. The fear is always of the unknown. The biggest unknown thing for the mind is death, because nobody ever has come back from death and described his experience. So the whole idea is that the moment we start having this fear of death, or the mind starts having this fear of its own end, that fear of death becomes the root cause of all fears. You can investigate this, you can introspect upon it, and you would come to know whether it is claustrophobia, whether it is commitment phobia. The fear occurs to the mind that we think we are, and fear is always of the unknown. So parenting without any impure or bad intention did something to us, added something, a kind of layer of conditioning. That was the first layer of actually fear. Now, when the child grows up, the second major influence that comes in our lives is that of teachers. Now, if you recall, friends, around 150 odd years back, the way through which teaching happened was oral. Yeah, there were gurukuls, and in that gurukuls, the guru gave his disciples all education by oral means. Now, there were no pens and papers the way we have been asked to cram things. There was the expectation of the guru was he would impart something to the disciple, then he would make the disciple experiment that until it becomes the child's, the student's experience, and then it became knowledge. Now, the difference between knowledge and information is superficial. It keeps us remain at the surface. Knowledge is at depth. It is our own experience. Unfortunately, in last 150 years, the practical, experimental, experiential aspect of education has not been encouraged. What has been encouraged is the theoretical part. No wonder we remain at the surface. And the other aspect that schooling did, which was definitely a kind of modern hostel that we have, when the child was asked to leave his parents at the age of 5 and go to his guru or his teacher, the child understood that all things are transitory, all things change, and the child never ended up clinging to his parents. And so a clear demarcation was done between attachment and love. Attachment binds, love sets free. And that is where the child became more confident because he experienced things on his own. Now, this is a major factor that influenced our development. Now, what happens when a child is just above the age of 10? Something happens to all of us. At least it happened to our generation. And that is society, another contributing factor, enters the picture. One platinum question that most of us have been subjected to, beta bade ho ke kya banoge? Now imagine when you are asking a child, what would you become when you grow up? The other aspect of this message is there is something lacking inside you right now. There is something incomplete inside you. Now, to fill that lack or incompleteness, you have to become something. That becoming lies in the future. After you become, society would issue certificates of validation and acknowledgement, and then finally you would become happy. But friends, this is a conspiracy, because इसमें एक चीज तो तय हो गई कि मेरी खुशी का मापदंड कोई और डिसाइड कर रहा है. When I am going to live up to the standards of society, then I am going to be happy, then they are going to allow me to be happy. Well, all these factors, what they have done to us, they have created strong layers of conditioning. Imagine what parents or surroundings tell the students when they go to school. There are 50 students in the class. Beta, aapko first aana hai. Anyhow, you have to come first. And the second thing parents tell, that make friends with all the schoolmates, all the people in your class. Now, the moment you have asked the child to come first, invariably the child has to compete against the remaining 49 students. Then you tell the child, go and become friendly with them. How would that happen? The seeds of competition are so deeply ingrained in us that we are hardly able to make friends. So by the time a child is 14, 15, when there is a certain kind of free thinking that can take place, we have already become a victim to the layers of this conditioning. Now what happens as a result? There is so much fear because of these three major factors that we non-consciously throughout our lives start operating out of fear, and consequently we keep on attracting fear in forms of a spouse, in forms of situations, in forms of siblings, in form of circumstances, and we keep on wondering, मेरे साथ ऐसा क्यों होता है? Because it is we who are radiating something continuously to the universe and consequently attracting. Now, friends, you would think, from where does pandemic enter this picture? Well, something very interesting happened. A friend of mine calls in the midst of a second wave, and he tells me his uncle is not well. And he tells me he has cough, he has fever, all the symptoms of COVID that are there. And he was quite tensed. Now, what happens to me or any normal person? I keep down the phone and I keep on thinking about it. यार जुकाम तो मुझको भी है, हल्का फीवर भी लग रहा है. The idea is how I chose to respond to that external stimulation. I chose to respond is by choosing a thought based out of fear. Now, how does manifestation take place? Manifestation takes place by 4 simple steps. First, you think about something. After repeatedly thinking about that thing, you end up feeling that thing deeply inside you. When you keep on feeling something repeatedly, that becomes a belief. When you keep on believing upon something, that manifests itself. And that is how we manifest. We can and we do non-consciously manifest any and everything in our lives. So, from where the childhood, 14 years of absorption becomes important, because in childhood, that thinking is not present. A child, we are not born with the fecality of thinking. We are born with the fecality to feel. Thinking is not developed in the child at an early stage. So what it does, whatever is absorbs, whatever it observes, it simply absorbs. So if a child goes near a flame and gets burnt, child would not come and tell you, I think I have got burnt. Child would tell you, I have got burnt. I feel this. So till the age of 10 years at least, the process of manifestation is feeling, believing, and finally manifesting it. The thinking part is no longer there. So that means it is a three-step process. That is why manifestations happens very readily. Now, unfortunately, the influences, the contributing factors helped us manifest fear inside us. So when I keep this phone call down, I start thinking that, okay, I have symptoms, some kind of symptoms. Then I start feeling it. Yeah, there is some body ache, and then I start believing internally, maybe I have COVID. Boss, people are not understanding I have COVID. Any which ways, when we are ill, we get some special treatment. We all love that. Now, I get my RT-PCR test done, and there is a report which suggests I am positive, and I am the first person to shout, "Main na kehta tha." But what was I trying to prove? What am I trying to prove? I have simply manifested something which was there in the atmosphere, looking for a receptor. And here I am shouting by thinking, feeling, believing, and manifesting. Hi, COVID. I'm here. I'm looking for you. I already feel I have you inside me. And no wonder that virus which is all around, we attract it, receive it, and that nourishes in our bodies, because what we have done, we have simply manifested it. Now, friends, we would have to be very aware of this process of manifestation, which starts with non-conscious thinking. So, in a nutshell, we have discussed what fear is, to whom it occurs, how in pandemic we can choose to respond to this fear. Now, the idea is there has to be some kind of remedy to this fear. So because one remedy or one anecdote cannot appeal to all of us, because we have had our upbringing under different socio-economic factors. So that is why there are different ways to acknowledge, accept, and finally transcend this fear. How to basically tackle this fear? The first way is basically that I have already narrated. Till the time we do not transcend the fear of death, we would have some or the other kind of fear deeply embedded inside us. You can investigate this. Now, how to transcend the fear of death? It's a very simple thing. The mind or the body dies. The soul does not. If the identification is shifted from something impermanent, that is the mind, and the body, to something permanent, that is soul. Believe me, if a child is groomed in a manner that if there has been a death in the family and a child is simply told, okay, fine, Dadaji is no longer there, but he is not in this body, still somewhere in the system, beta, he is still with us in a sense. The child would grow with utmost fearlessness, because when this would be established inside us that there is no end to it, imagine how fearless life can be. So this shift in identification should be bought by conscious effort, by continuously introspecting when alone who actually we are. Are we a limited story of 70 years, or we were, we are, and we would be? Definitely, if it's only a limited story of 70 years, we are actually overrating it. We are far more beyond than the bodies. Then there is another category of people, friends, who say we think a lot. We have this habit of continuously thinking. Their thoughts are powerful. They manifest things through their thoughts. Now, to all those people, I would not suggest stop thinking and start feeling. You already have a certain kind of strength that is there natural to you. Now utilize that. Now, I always believe that pandemic, COVID is actually the second pandemic. The first is definitely the mobile phone, but we can also utilize it for our well-beings. So the people who are very good thinkers, who think a lot, I would suggest before you sleep, just record a 5 minutes voice note to your own selves and listen to it. That can be an affirmation. Now, when you get up the next morning, listen to that very voice note the first thing in the morning. The idea is to take something from the conscious part of your mind to your subconscious. Now, that affirmation can be, I am beautiful, I am complete, I am the hero of my story, I am wholesome, I am somebody experiencing and breathing freedom. Now, if you keep on repeatedly listening to this in your own voice, whatever has been done to you would be undone. All those layers of conditioning, those negative belief set, those stories of lack and impermanence can simply be replaced by something positive. The minimum period for this is 21 days. If you start, do it for 21 days before you sleep, and when you get up, a voice note, because our voices are the most convincing sources for us. So nobody can convince us the most rather than our own voices. Now, there are some other category of people who are extremely emotional. They're very sensitive. Now, what to do with such kind of temperament? Now, friends, I would narrate my story. I was deeply emotional. I was deeply sensitive. I am deeply emotional. Now, I always believe out of the many relationships that we cultivate, the most powerful is that of a friendship. No reason, no blood, nothing involved, and yet we are most comfortable with our friends. We don't even share things to our spouses, to our parents, to our siblings, but we share everything to our friends. Now, my point is wherein I do understand that God is formless. Yeah, God is formless. But unfortunately, human mind is not evolved enough to focus on something formless. What I suggest is create a form of God in your own minds and cultivate a friendship with that form. Cultivate a friendship of sharing, good, bad, ugly, whatever you go through. Mentally keep on having an interaction with that friend, keep on sharing things with that friend. You would notice a different texture of life altogether, because imagine if that friend of yours is the creator, what big an assurance you have. And so much you keep on sharing, you keep on relying. By the way, what I am simply asking you all to do is to cultivate faith. This is what faith is. When this faith, by your repeated interaction with that friend of yours, that form of God, would exceed a certain point, it would be successful in engulfing the fear that we have been harboring. And once this faith engulfs the fear, the consequence becomes freedom. Now, we can definitely argue what faith is. We all might have different definitions of faith. I'll just narrate a 2-minute story. A samurai, a Japanese warrior, is married. He gets married. So he takes his wife for a boating session. Quite a romantic scene. He is with his wife. They both are enjoying the scenic beauty. And suddenly what happens? There is a storm that takes over. It's all around. Now this newly wedded girl, she starts panicking, but the samurai is sitting with all composure and he's totally cool basically. So she panics and she tells him, "Are you mad? Have you lost your mind? You are so cool." So he says, "You want to know the reason for I being so composed?" He takes out his sword and puts it here at this part of his wife's neck, and wife smiles and very confidently says, "Tum dara rahe ho mujhe? You are scaring me, but I won't be scared." He says, "The way you have so much faith that I can't do anything to you, I have similar faith upon that creator or universe जो ये storm लेके आ रहा है." So that is faith, friends, which makes you remain calm, composed in any atmosphere or circumstance or situation, because you have an assurance your God would do whatever would be best for you, not what you want. So this is another way of tackling deep-rooted fear, by continuously having an interaction with God in a form. Now, friends, yet again, there is another way by which fear can be handled, tackled, addressed. And that is one of the biggest misconstitutions in life is we have all been taught so much about meditation. And when somebody tells us about meditation, we end up imagining it is sitting like this in some kind of asana and, there is a bliss smile on a face. No, sorry, friends. This is some very, very, very wrong information regarding meditation. What they speak of are the advanced stages. Meditation basically means being in the present moment. Now imagine 2 seconds back, I have said something and I can't change it because it's past and it's dead. Imagine after 2 seconds, there might be an earthquake and all might crash. Nobody knows about it. Most of our lives, either we are in a past or we are in a future, and it comes at a cost. We have to pay a price for that, and that is the present moment. We have to sacrifice the present moment for either being in the past or being in the future. Now imagine how universe and nature gives us messages. When we came out from our mother's womb, the umbilical cord was cut. When that was severed, a connection with that word was severed, and then a connection with this word was made. So the past is dead. But we have in a childhood observed this, that either our surroundings remained in past or there was anxiety about future. Now, the idea is it's very easy to be in the present moment, but how to bring your wild mind back to the moment? It is simply by following your breath. The moment you realize your mind is in the past, bring it back to your breath. The moment you realize it is anxious regarding something of the future, bring it back to the breath. Breath is the only thing that simultaneously happens with the present moment. Please do not leave this moment. This is the only reality. This is where we have the power to do any and everything. Whatever has happened, fortunately, unfortunately, nothing can be done about it. So please stop thinking about it. It is not going to do any good. And same goes for the future. So this is one of the ways by which, if you remain in the present moment, you would act out of spontaneity rather than fear. Because in the present moment, actually, what happens is spontaneity takes over. It makes you behave, and that is responsible for your conduct rather than a rehearsed kind of behavior. That rehearsed kind of behaviors comes out of fear. This is my vision board, and what I have written is a word Hatiaf, HTIAF. This is the title of my next book, and the word inverted actually means faith only. So the message is that faith has gone inside us in an inverted direction, and that is fear. Now we need to work upon it. And I'll just conclude, Fasibhai, by narrating a 2-minute story. Now, when I started this talk, I said the fear of pandemic is far bigger than the pandemic itself. Now, we can always even say the fear of death is far bigger than the death itself. So there are two owls perched on a branch of a tree. In one owl's mouth is a mouse, and in the other owl's mouth is a snake. Now they both are waiting for breakfast time. When they feel hungry, both the owls are going to gobble these two entities. Now the mouse has totally given up. It knows it is going to die. It is assured and in a sense at peace and accepted. Now the snake is also in a similar position. It knows it is in the mouth of the owl. So there is no hope for the snake as well. But imagine how deep-rooted instincts are in us. Like even if we are about to die and there is a favorite dish being cooked and we smell that, our mouth would start watering. That is what instinct does to us. So even in that state, the snake happens to look at the mouse, which is in the mouth of the other owl, and its mouth starts watering. It knows it's about to die. It has forgotten death in that moment. And the mouse there starts shivering. Somebody who had already accepted it is going to about to die now takes the fear of death as bigger as fear or death itself. So friends, with this, I would definitely conclude by saying the death of the caterpillar is the birth of the butterfly. The death of the fear is the birth of freedom. And I would want you all to operate out of immense faith and freedom. And that would make it possible for you all to consequently keep on attracting it in terms of your relationships, your financial part, and your health part. Thank you so much, Fasibhai.
Amit, this is from Gaurav. He is more inquisitive about the book because you have told it now. You don't tell about this to the closest of your people. I know because, I have been pushing you on a few things. but the thing on your vision board, it's intriguing for a lot of people.
It is very simple. It is Hatiaf, HTIAF. If you reverse the word faith, Hatiaf is formed. And as far as my journey has been, my own experiences have taught me that we have inverted fear. Like we need to overcome this fear, and faith helps to do that. So it is about the journey of a person, how he overcomes his fear and finally finds freedom.
Whilst you were sort of facilitating the session and leading what needs to be done and taking the mind almost on a journey, it's sort of difficult for an individual to do it on its own without any sort of aids, right? What other sort of tips would you have to do it for someone without any such aids, where someone's actually narrating how to go through the process? And part B of that question is, and for how long should you train your mind regularly so that, when you're in that traffic jam, or if your toddler's being difficult, or if your boss is being annoying about some situation or requirement, how do you quickly sort of train your mind to say, well, you know what, it's okay? And I guess maybe the PIL sort of technique might help in that situation. But just to recap, the time and to do it on your own, some tips on that we could sort of utilize. Thanks.
Wonderful. So what a beautiful question, because this is where the practicality hits. This is where Sarwar is mentioning how do I practically use, and thanks for asking this. Now let me answer this in 2-3 parts. So first of all, you mentioned about how do I practice it, because there has to be some instructions, and you're very right. Our mind, if we start instructing our own mind at our own, it doesn't follow us. In 30 seconds, every 30 seconds, our mind gets distracted. That is scientifically proven. So we need a third voice. Fortunately, now there are so many mindfulness apps. I think there are more than 2,000 mindfulness apps are there, and you can use any of those. They are beautiful apps. They are not end of the world, but they are a great beginning. Even we have a few audios which are available, and let me see if these can be shared with this group. I'll request. The second part, Sarwar also mentioned about how long do I practice and what do I do when I really need to face these problems. So there are 2 parts to it. One, we need to continuously enhance ourselves. I mean, if we are learning any skill, any sport, any language, or anything, what happens is continuously we are strengthening ourselves. And as we strengthen, I mean, whatever game it is, when even the difficult shot comes in, we are able to pull it through if we have a good practice. So one, continuous practice is actually going to make us stronger. I request and I suggest 10 minutes every day as a good time to start with. Lesser than that becomes little smaller. 10 minutes, and then you can increase it to whatever else. I mean, we go for even 45 minutes, 1 hour sometimes, but 10 minutes is a great beginning. Every day, alternate day, whatever way it is to learn. Okay. And simultaneously, trying to practice PIL, you will not get success at the first place. But the point is, as you make a beginning, first you will get success in P, then you will get success in I, then you will get some success in L. Sometimes you will try to locate and you will be so perturbed, it will not happen. But the point is, 5 times, 10 times as it is happening, it may start happening that 10 times you will lose it, but 1 time you will get it. And gradually it will go further. So for you, suggestions are very simple. Start practicing these mind strengthening techniques. Mindfulness is one, on a daily basis, on alternative basis. One. Second, start using PIL in some tricky situations like mood swings.
So Sapan, my question is simple. Long back, like I think during my father's time, no one really thought of the condition of your body, like health, but today health is a big deal and there is a lot of resources available. So there are a lot of people who put out like on Instagram and things. So anytime you want to understand some aspect of your health, there is a lot of resources available. And I think going forward, mental health is going to be a problem. I don't know who mentioned it, but someone said I think Amit mentioned that the biggest problem is cell phone and the second is whatever, So I think originating from cell phone and the distractions that we have built around our life, mindfulness is going to be a big challenge. So is there some way that we can make this commonly accessible and mainstream for people so that, they start looking at mental health as a important aspect, just like how people look at physical health as an important aspect. That's what I wanted to talk.
Okay. Thanks, Rose. And I think if I hear you rightly, you're saying how do we actually help people understand the importance, how people actually start adopting it, the mainstream, the public also become more and more closer to it. Uh, fortunately, it's already happening, not always for the right reasons. So there are two things which are happening. As you said, physical health was the flavor of all these decades. But last 1.5, 2 decades, what's happening is there is a clear data, there are clear demonstrations which are happening in terms of there is so much, it's a pandemic. Stress is a big pandemic, and there is so much of work which is happening around it. So one is on a very negative way that people are actually seeing stress as a killer. All this distraction, fear, emotional aspects, mental health is such a big problem where we are seeing the clear uh, problems. I mean, people are dying because of this. People are losing a good life. Okay, so one, these problems are already becoming very, very clear. At the second level, the important part is the solution part, the research part is so clear now. Okay. So over last 2-3 decades, especially, there has been very good fundamentally research happening, and there is so much of talk which is happening. I believe even if we don't do anything, next decade is definitely going to be about that. Many people are already talking that some 50 years back, if somebody would say, I'm going for a walk, so people would ask, where are you going? Okay. Now everybody walks, everybody jogs. If somebody says, I'm running, I mean, where are you running to? Why are you running? Okay, it was a surprise. Same way, meditation, mindfulness, mental health exercises are going to become the part of the routine as exercises have already become. So this is what I'm saying, this already happening. This is a good news which is already happening. Now I think we all at our individual level, government level, and different NGO and organizational level, definitely more and more awareness can be raised. I don't have any specific solution to say how, in a particular way we can raise awareness, but I think we ourselves can become a role model. One thing that I always say is, we got to start. I mean, we got to start using these techniques. We got to become better and let people get more and more inspired from our change, and they started off.
Good evening, everybody. My question is from Amit, for Amitji. How would you manifest positive energy from the negativity which comes, like the situations which are about to arrive, and if you feel anxious about them, that those situations which are about to arrive are going to damage you or your inner self or your inner confidence, and उसको हिंदी में अनागत भय के नाम से हम जाते हैं. So always being anxious. So how do we manifest it into a positive thinking, and that doesn't loosen our self-confidence?
By simply taking a decision. Either you are being driven or you are the driver of the car named as your life. If suppose you take the decision that you are the driver, then along with this decision comes an accountability to choose, a responsibility to choose. So as you said, there are already negative things, there are positive things. Whatever we choose that as thought, repeatedly think about the same very thought until it becomes a feeling, repeatedly feel that until it becomes a belief, and a very strong belief gets manifested. The process remains the same. It's all about your decision, what you decide to choose upon. And that decision needs to be very strong.
Thank you so much, and see you guys on the other side. Thank you.
Thanks, Fasi. Thanks, everyone.